Japan during the offseason, an outstanding career over there. And he's really on the mound.
He was the big free agent that the Mariners have signed. I mean, you can say what you want about, their judging of talent and what they've done or haven't done the last few years, to bolster their farm system and bring kids up from within. But there's no doubt that what they've done as far as scouting, especially in Japan, has been second to none. They've done a great job, and they expect a lot of good stuff out of this left-hander. Second time he's faced the Reds already this year. He faced them back on February the 25th. And struck out Joey Votto in a big curveball. Votto's in the on-deck circle.
He's pitched in 8 years in Japan's Pacific League. And there's a roller that'll find a hole in the right field, and that's the way to come back for Curt Casale.
Casale is DHing tonight because they're trying to get him into live batting situations. He had hip surgery over the winter and just not ready yet to get down and play in a game behind the plate. Right now, penciled to be in the number 2 slot backup catcher behind Tucker Barnhart.
He was a really nice pickup for the Reds last year.
Really thoughtful guy,
yep.
Good communicator. Pitchers love him. And he's part of that Vanderbilt connection. There's a lot going on here with the Reds and Vandy.
Eric Johnson, the pitching coach, was a pitching coach there. Sonny Gray, the acquisition during the offseason coming over from the New York Yankees, was pitching at Vanderbilt when Johnson was a pitching coach there.
With the assistant pitching coach, Caleb Cotham.
Yep. Slow start to the spring for Votto, and of course, Joey has shown up in spring training this year as, quite frankly, a guy on a mission. Not that he isn't every single year, but he's coming off, in his own words, not our words, in his words, by far the worst season of his major league career. Now, some of the numbers look great. His on-base percentage still led the league, although his slugging percentage was only 2 points higher than his .417 on-base percentage. Votto hit just 12 home runs in over 500 at-bats and drove in 67 runs. In fact, if you don't believe me, we'll hear from Joey Votto in his own words assessing his 2018.
The one thing I found as I've gotten older, you just have to put in more reps, and the reps have to be, more. They need to be more sound, technically sound. And I felt like last year I was a little sloppy with that. It was an eye-opening experience last year for me personally. I can't just kind of roll in, just to get what I'm used to.
That one just missed. Kikuchi felt like he had Votto struck out again.
Pretty good looking pitch right there. I'm wondering if Votto may have felt the same way. Looks like a little cut fastball right there that just stayed maybe at the very top of the zone.
3 balls, 2 strikes. And there's ball 4. So Votto draws a walk in the first 2 aboard here in the Cincinnati first inning. One of the most interesting players acquired by the Reds this season makes his way to the plate now, and that's 3-time All-Star Matt Kemp. 34 years old, has had a great major league career. Been in the big leagues. This is his 13th season. Most of those years with the Dodgers. Sandwiched in between a couple of seasons in San Diego and 2 in Atlanta. Finished up with LA last year. He had a great first half of the season, went to the All-Star game, and then really tailed off at the end. But now in a very crowded Cincinnati Reds outfield, you wonder, A, where is Kemp going to play and how much he's going to play. The numbers from last year we talked about, pre-All-Star game, post-All-Star game. For Matt Kemp, he's looked very good here in the spring swinging the bat.
It'll really be interesting the way it plays out, because you have several players that have legitimate reasons why they feel they should be in the lineup on an everyday basis. Now, if Kemp plays, he would play left field. The other guy in left field, of course, is Jesse Winker. The Reds they're not in a hurry to turn Winker into a platoon player and play him only against right-handed pitching. Although Kemp would be a much more formidable hitter against left-handers, at least right now, than Jesse Winker would. So are you into development or are you into winning?
It's a very good question. I mean, based on what the Reds did during the offseason, you would assume it would be the latter and not so much the former. Chased a bad pitch there, no balls and 2 strikes. And even though Kemp has not come to Cincinnati frequently during his major league career, he's never played inside the National League Central. The amount of damage that he has done at Great American Ballpark is staggering. I mean, one of the most successful hitters in the number of games played, and there you see 34 games, 10 home runs, has knocked in better than a run per game.
You know, I look at numbers like that sometimes, and I can't help but think, is he hitting because he likes the ballpark, or is he hitting because he likes hitting up the pitching staff that the Reds are running out there?
It's a legitimate question.
I'll tell you, he's been a hard worker so far. And there was a time in Matt Kemp's career when, you know, he had a run of about 3 or 4 years there where he may have been one of the top 3 players in baseball. I mean, could go get him in center field, hit to all fields with power. Good breaking pitch there.
Going on strikes for the first out of the inning. And by the way, for those of you who are normally used to watching a game where our high home camera follows the action, that camera is having some problems. So we'll do our best to cover this game without it for the time being. Yasiel Puig. Part of the deal that brought Kemp along and Alex Wood along. Homer Bailey involved in that trade and a couple of minor league players. And Puig has been a bundle of energy even when he broke in, going all the way back, leaving Cuba, signing with the Dodgers in 2012. And boy, did he burst on the scene in 13. In just barely over 100 games, hit 19 home runs, came back the following year, had a very good year. He's had his ups and downs since. But the last 2 years of 28 home runs, 23 home runs, and a batting average right around 265.
Well, the Dodgers had a surplus of players, and they looked at Puig and realized that, you know, they're not sure how much he was going to play for them this year. He'll be a free agent at the end of this season. And the Reds are hoping that motivation year is going to be a factor. From a physical standpoint, you'd be hard-pressed to find too many baseball players who are as gifted athletes, just raw athletes, as Yasiel Puig. I mean, he looks more like an NFL linebacker. He runs well. He's got a terrific arm. When he squares the ball up, he can hit it as far as anyone. As you said, he's a bundle of energy. He's been great in the clubhouse.
Yep.
You know, more contact, a little more consistency. You just hope that it's just one of those years.
2 balls and a strike on Puig, and that one's up and away. 3 balls and a strike. Kikuchi having a hard time throwing consistent strikes here in this bottom of the first inning.
Yeah, it looks like both pitchers are overthrowing. Kikuchi's overthrowing his breaking ball, and Castillo had a hard time by overthrowing his fastball, leaving them all up and out of the zone.
Well, Puig doesn't pull the trigger there on a 3-1 fastball. It was a very well-located fastball in the inside corner to run the count full.
You know, last time the Reds faced Kikuchi, a lot of them were commenting on how well Kikuchi hid the baseball, that he's just hard to pick the ball up off of.
Two on, 1 out. Reds trailing 2-0. We're in the bottom of the opening inning. And this is off the leg of Kikuchi, and everybody's going to be safe. I'm sure that'll be scored a base hit for Yasiel Puig, and the Reds have the bases loaded for Scooter Gennett.
Where he turned a double play into an infield hit. I mean, I don't think it got him in a spot where he's going to have to leave the ball game, but man, oh man, you get a one-hopper back as you right there, and you've got a chance to field that ball, turn to second base, and get out of the inning with it. Instead, you've got bases loaded and 1 out.
Scott Service is a manager for these Seattle Mariners. He played in the big leagues for a long, long time. Young man who grew up in the state of Wisconsin. Had a good, solid major league career. Tough guy.
Looks like a tough guy.
Yeah, he is. You got to be tough just to grow up in Wisconsin.
There's about 3 or 4 months there.
Oh, it's longer than that.
Toughness.
Oh, man. I mean, they're still feeling it up there. I was talking to a friend up, lives outside of Milwaukee a couple of days ago, and it was 12, 15 below zero, coldest winter they've ever had in the state of Wisconsin. And that's a story in a lot of places. Saw a story the other day. It's the first time in 70 years the city of Los Angeles did not hit 70 degrees one time in the month of February. Not one time. All right, so here we go. Scooter Gennett, the batter, with the bases loaded. And only 1 out. First pitch swinging. And this will knock in a run on a sac fly into left field. Handled by Ichiro, and the Reds are on the board. It's a 2-1 game. So that's a small victory, you would think, for the man on the mound.
Yeah, it is, but it's also a little bit of a victory for Scooter Gennett. I mean, he goes up there with a certain aim of what he wanted to do in that at-bat. He's got a runner at third base, less than 2 outs. He's facing a left-hander. He gets moved down in the order because he's facing a lefty. And he gets a first pitch up around the letter. So that is one that says, hey, hit me. Even a lazy fly ball is going to score a run right there. So, you know, if he takes that pitch and it's a strike, now you're looking at maybe a left-hander that's got a couple of strikeout pitches with curveballs, and he's got a chance to get out of the inning with nothing.
All right, so now we see Nick Senzel. Young man, the #1 ranked prospect in the Cincinnati Reds organization. Chris mentioned earlier, in June of 2016, first-round pick, second pick overall out of the University of Tennessee. And by the way, that was the Reds' highest draft pick since they took shortstop Kurt Stillwell. We all remember him.
Wow.
With a second pick back in 1983. And of course, Stillwell was the guy who it came down to him and another former #1 pick as to which one they were going to keep and then trade the other. That other one happened to be named Barry Larkin. And the Reds made the right call.
I would say so, even though the intriguing thing about Stillwell at the time that he was a switch hitter. So that's the one advantage that they thought that he had over Larkin, but thank goodness they made the choice they did.
And a great kid.
Yeah.
Stillwell. Boy, he was a really, really nice young man. There's a ball that comes all the way to the backstop. Votto and Puig will advance.
What do you call that, a zoom ball?
Zoom ball. That's what.
I was waiting for our first zoom ball.
I was going to sit on my material for a little while, but I guess we'll break it out. You know, that happens, Chris, when you get older. Your material starts to, it becomes smaller and smaller, and so you don't want to be overexposed early.
But you're not sure when it's coming out either.
That's right. And you're not sure if you'll remember that it's going to come out.
Well, let me write that down.
Yeah, thank you.
March 7th.
All right, Senzel now with a chance to put his team in front with a base hit. Straight up in the air. Second baseman drifting out, making the call, and the catch, and that will retire the side. Seattle 2 in the first, Reds 1 in the first.
More clear, but we still have a ways to go, and guys are going to increase the playing time now, and we're really going to ramp things up, but we have quite a bit to decide still.
When I talk to people that have been around camps the past few years and this year, they talk about a different aura, and they talk about it in a positive nature. Have you heard that, and you've been around enough camps. Can you feel it?
You can, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but I think so many people are responsible for that. Number one, the players. They're doing a great job. They're working hard. People are happy to be here. Everything has been great so far.
Appreciate your time. Good luck.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, that's David Bell. Gentlemen, as we go back upstairs, got to tell you, this coaching staff is outstanding. We'll see over the long haul, but I have been very, very impressed so far.
And I tell you who else is impressive is this young guy right here. We mentioned he's a native of Cleveland, Ohio. That's Derek Dietrich. He's been a good major league player for the last number of years.
Well, we talk about
he killed this ball.
Offensive players first. Dietrich is that kind of guy, and he kind of fell into the Reds' lap, and they are just pinching themselves with excitement because he's a left-handed hitter, has pop. They don't know if he's going to be a starter, probably coming off the bench, but I mean, he provides that kind of pop coming off the bench. A guy that was released basically non-tendered by the Marlins just because they're trying to cut payroll, and fits perfectly in on this roster.
You were talking earlier about a guy with a frame as a baseball player.
Yeah.
I mean, Dietrich is right there. He is really put together and has been a good, solid player. Has seen a lot of playing time for the Marlins the last number of years. So a 2-2 game after the home run by Dietrich, and here's another young man. Regular shortstop the last 5 years in Detroit. All of a sudden is looking around. Camps are starting, doesn't have a job. And now Jose Iglesias, who we saw last year during interleague play, is a member of this Reds team.
Well, one of the slickest fielders that the Reds have had in camp over the last few years. This guy can play any position in the infield and play it well. He's just a solid, has great baseball sense and savvy. Will bring a little bit of leadership to even to the starting shortstop, Jose Peraza. So, he's a guy I think that really fits another very important piece on this ball club.
On the ground down to third base, and this will be the first out of the inning. You know that the situation that David Bell finds himself in, along with President of Baseball Operations Dick Williams, General Manager Dick Kroll, numbers game. And it's the same thing with every team in baseball this time of year. And the numbers being, you have 5 starting pitchers. The Reds have talked about going with an 8-man bullpen to start the year. Well, if that's the case, then you only have 4 players on your bench. If you go to a 7-man bullpen, you have 5 players on your bench. Now, Kurt Casale, if he's healthy enough and ready to go, that he will be your backup catcher. So now you start looking around, and just say for the sake of argument, if for no other reason, just say tonight, Winker's going to be the everyday left fielder, but let's just say Winker and say Senzel and say Puig would be your starting outfielders. Well, that would leave you with Schebler and Kemp coming off your bench as extra outfielders. And then the extra infielders, the last 2 batters we saw, would be Dietrich and Iglesias. Well, if that number has to go, Chris, from 5 to 4, somebody's not here.
Well, that's why a 13-man pitching staff nowadays is tougher and tougher. Because you steal that player off your bench, and especially if that player that you have to cut from your ball club, you cannot send down to the minor leagues without another team being able to pick them up. Mm-hmm. So, if you're going to try to sneak Derek Dietrich through waivers or Jose Iglesias through waivers between now and the end of spring, there's got to be a ball club out there that has an injury to an infielder or needs another left-handed bat, and they've been scouting Dietrich all spring long here in Goodyear. They're going to pick him up. And the same way maybe for Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp comes with a very big paycheck along the way. So you're going to be eating some money if you don't have him. These are tough decisions, and they fortunately don't have to be made by us.
Another home run by Dietrich. This one ties the game at 2.
Miles.
I tell you, when you go to Tokyo, you should get frequent flyer miles just to drive in from the airport to where they're going to be staying. There's a swing and a miss. I opened the season a number of years ago. The first 2 games over there, I did that series. The drive from the airport to the hotel was almost as long as a flight.
base, and on the receiving end of that throw and put out was one David Bell. He talked to Lou Piniella about Ichiro that first season that he came over. There was a spring training batting practice going on, and Ichiro just kept peppering the ball in the infield, and came over to Lou, and Lou said, "Hey, I thought you could hit home runs. Show me you can hit a home run." Well, he got into the game. First at bat, hit a bomb. Came back to Lou Piniella and said, "How's that? What a player."
What a player is right. What a player, what a player, what a player. Going to the Hall of Fame one day. Lead pipe cinch for that.
I mean, when you have one name,
that's right.
That's all you need to qualify.
There's no question. Here's Matt Kemp. Struck out his first time up. Kikuchi allowed single runs in each of the first 2 innings. Sac fly RBI by Scooter Gennett, and a solo home run, a long home run off the bat of Derek Dietrich. But the Mariners break the 2-2 tie and lead 4-2 as the Reds bat here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Pretty good crowd on hand here tonight. Well, I tell you what, bouncing around Cincinnati, and Chris, you make your home year-round in Cincinnati, have for many, many, many years, forever. Same with me, and you know, whether you're going into Kroger, whether you're pulling into the gas station, whether you're wherever you are, it is just amazing the excitement level for what the Reds have done during this offseason. There are so many fans so energized by what the franchise has tried to do in terms of getting better after 4 straight seasons of losing 90 or more games.
Yeah, I think they should be. I think it's legitimate. It's just not a lot of sizzle that's going on here in Arizona. I mean, one thing that you have to do when you've been on a losing streak as long as the Reds have is that you have to figure out a way to improve the culture. And that's what Dick Williams and Nick Krall and David Bell had. That was their first charge. You know, do that, hire the coaching staff, and then go out and try to figure out what players are going to fit. Everybody's got their own jobs to do. David Bell's is different than Krall and Williams. But it's really nice to see. A couple of the things that they've done here is that they seem to have brought in kind of a corporate team-building culture and applied it to baseball teams. You know, Dick Williams and David Bell have both read the same book. I remember Dick Williams pulled me aside the very first day I was down here in early February and talked about the book that David Bell had talked to him about and said, I want to get my coaching staff and get off site and go to a seminar by this author. And Dick Williams said, I've read the same book. I'm going to do the same thing with my internal people. Mm-hmm. And now it's called the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And they went through that, and in the very first meeting that David Bell had with his team, he's talking about things like trust and loyalty and love, and they're looking at each other saying, love? Did the manager just say love in a team meeting? Well, you know, they're trying to build this culture here, and it's very interesting to see, you know, how guys have really bought into it from the very top all the way down to the bottom.
Not quite sure what was going on with the Seattle left-hander out there on the mound. They came out to check him out earlier when one hopper grazed off his arm. And they come back out to look at him again, and he, 3 pitches later, is able to retire Matt Kemp for the 2nd out here in the 3rd inning.
I'm quite impressed by this young man. I'll tell you, he looks like he hides the ball well. He's got a variety of a couple of different breaking pitches. His fastball, he's got a quick arm. The fastball not overpowering velocity-wise. We don't have a radar gun working tonight, but it looks like it gets on you quick. And he's not afraid to come inside a little bit. And the Reds really haven't squared up the ball all that much.
Well, the only ball that you could say was just hammered was Dietrich. Outside of that, although that one was hit pretty hard, but late, and fouled out a play off the bat of Yasiel Puig. Puig an infield single his first time up. That was a bouncer off of the pitcher, Kikuchi. I mean, you talk about a guy that flipped the city upside down. His only trip into Cincinnati during this offseason, he came over to the Reds Urban Academy.
Oh.
That ball is laced down into the corner, and Puig will make the turn and go into second base. I mean, he had a ball with all the kids out there that he met. All the Reds employees came down, said hello to all of them, made quite a first impression with his new team.
He centers this one up perfectly. You know, he's a guy that, as I've watched him, Tom, I've always thought he's been a good low ball hitter. And the way that you would get him out over the years, you know, as an opposing team would look at him, you try to climb the ladder. But you can just see how quick that bat is. He got that down around his knees and just yak-attacked that ball down the left field line. I think Puig, didn't he come in right in the middle of the polar vortex?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was
as
brutal.
Cold as it could get, right?
Yep. And he said cold weather never bothered him. They asked him about going from playing in a big market like Los Angeles, and now he's in one of the smaller markets in Cincinnati. He said, I grew up in a small town. I'm okay in a small town. I mean, everything they asked him, he was spot on. Yasiel Puig. You just hope he has, like you said, it's a year where he puts it all together. Free agent at the end of the year. And I think most people would agree that if you had your druthers in any sport, not just baseball, you love having the player who's playing for a contract.
Well, the Reds have 5 of them on their team. So as much activity as they did this winter in moving guys in and out, you can anticipate the same thing happening at the end of 2019, because they'll have spots to fill with guys unless they want to offer extensions to some. But it's going to be a lot of activity going on. The scouts will be very busy.
Scooter Gennett is another one of those players, and on the very first day when the full squad reported, I mean, he just laid it out there on the line, saying he was very disappointed he did not get a contract. There's a fly ball well played by Ichiro in left field, and that will end the inning. That's good play by Ichiro. That ball carried a long way. 4-2 at the end of 3, Seattle in front. This will be his 4th inning of work. He's allowed 4 hits and 2 runs, and he'll be facing Senzel, Dietrich, and Iglesias. With Seattle in front 4-2, last to the 4th inning.
Looks like they're stretching them out early. Of course, they've got that opening weekend for them is going to be a week earlier than anybody else in baseball. Pitched 166 innings last year for his team in Japan, 187 the year before that.
So here's Senzel. The thing Senzel, of course, is primarily focused on outside of winning the everyday center field job, but you can't play anywhere if you don't stay healthy. And unfortunately for Senzel, you don't call him snake bit, but the last couple of years he has missed a lot of baseball.
Well, he missed a lot last year, and he had 3 different things wrong with him last year. He had vertigo, and he broke his finger towards the end of the season, and that held him out really for the second half of the season. And then over the winter he had an elbow surgery on his left elbow, his non-throwing elbow. And then even so far here in camp, and this is his first time back after missing a few days with, you know, some tightness in his hamstring. They don't think it's anything big, but, you know, interesting how things play out, because one of the decisions that's revolve around Nick Senzel is that if he plays really well, does he make the team out of spring training?
Right.
And if he does, then you have the arbitration clock beginning to tick. And you know, so many ball clubs now make the decision that no matter how good a player is and how well he may play in spring training, we're not going to lose an entire year of his, you know, control by playing him 2 extra weeks in the beginning of the season when he's 24 years old. We'd rather have that, you know, when he's 28 or 29 years old. So I think the Reds, you know, years ago it was the Cubs that took a lot of heat about Chris Bryant.
Yes.
And ever since then, it's been a lot easier for ball clubs to send their players down in that same situation because the Cubs set that precedent. And the Reds may have to relive that here with Nick Senzel.
And, you know, there's been a lot of talk, and I was visiting with Dick Williams about this, you know, trying to get specific. Basically, you're looking at a little under 2 weeks of the season where if you sent him down and brought him back up, you would still have quote-unquote control. And you can get into the whole Super 2 debate and arbitration and all that kind of thing. But the bottom line is you're buying yourself an entire year. Now, can you buy some of that time back in the middle of a season? You can. But if you say Senzel starts the year with a big league club opening day, at some point in time during the year, he would have to go down to the minor leagues for 21 days. Not less than 2 weeks. It'd have to be a full 21 days, 3 weeks, to basically still buy back that 1 year of arbitration or that 1 year prior to free agency.
Yeah, I really don't understand how that particular clause got in the labor agreement, because it doesn't benefit the player, it doesn't benefit the ball clubs, and it doesn't benefit your fan base. I mean, if you've got a young player who's exciting, I mean, I would think that Major League Baseball would want that player up as quickly as possible so your fans get to see him play.
And I'm sure that will be something they talk about, as they've already started, in fact, to sit down. And I think which was a welcome sight for many, feeling that because of all the free agents that had not been signed. And look, Harper and Machado finally got their deals, but there are a lot of other guys out there that have not. Same story last year. Senzel is out of there swinging on a high fastball. But there's been a lot of talk that, maybe there would be some bad blood between ownership and the Players Association. They've had labor peace for a long, long time. And now all of a sudden they're starting to sit down together again, which is a good sign. Dietrich hit a monster home run to the deepest part of right center field. It nearly left the stadium. His only at bat. And now goes the other way with a base hit. That's impressive tonight for Derek Dietrich.
Well, 2 really good swings right here. He may be even happier with this one, just because it's one of those trained swings, the kind of swing that you work on over and over again. The defense is giving you a hole. You're going to hit off a left-handed pitcher, and you're able to get it right there in that spot. Of course, he'd rather hit that ball about 450 feet every time anyway. St. Ignatius guy.
Yes, indeed.
Mentioned he was from Northern Ohio.
So does parents still live up there outside of Cleveland? I wonder if he was a football player at St. Ignatius.
Yeah,
they have a great program.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Great program. One of the great programs in the state of Ohio. St. Ignatius.
When he was a high school player, he was an excellent baseball player, and I got to talking to him about that, and he said, I was going to be a #1 draft pick and decided to go to Georgia Tech instead. Played for Danny Hall a little bit at Georgia Tech, and it all worked out pretty well for him.
Double play ball here if they can turn it, and they do. A double play will end the inning. That's 4 innings of 2-run baseball for Kike.